you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. Can the Prime Minister confirm that under his discredited forced divestment laws, the government could force Western Australia to privatise its state-owned electricity assets? And why does the Prime Minister want to make it even harder for Western Australians to make ends meet by forcing WA to sell off its electricity assets, which will make electricity even more expensive?
The Treasurer has the call.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I can tell the member for Cowan that in Western Australia no government assets will be privatised under this legislation, because under this legislation, if there is a divestment at last resort of a government asset, then it goes to another government entity. But I can say to the member for Cowan, if she wants to do something for the people of her electorate and make their lives better off, then stand up to the Leader of the Opposition and his big new property tax, Mr Speaker, because there are 9,443 people in the electorate of Cowan who are going to be worse off as a result of Labor's policy. And what about Labor's big new retirees tax? What about that? Well, in the electorate of Cowan, there are 3,173 people who will be worse off at the next election as a result of Labor proposing a big new retirees tax. Now, Mr Speaker, you know, in the hyperbole of the member for McMahon, in this debate, it was very, very funny, because the other day on divestment he got up in the parliament and he started saying, I'm going to have to write to the government of Venezuela about this legislation. And I thought to myself, Venezuela, the Labor Party, you know, he's already got the Labor Party, their union friends, they've already got the Venezuelan government as a pen pal, Mr Speaker. They've already got them, because I discovered a letter, and the letter is from the CFMEU to the government of Venezuela, and it's titled Comrade Daniel, Mr Speaker. Comrade Daniel. Now, let's remember the Venezuelan election was described by the UN High Commissioner on Human Rights as in any way fulfilling minimal conditions for free and credible elections. But what did the CFMEU say to the government of Venezuela about their elections? It's with great satisfaction that we've received reports of your successful presidential elections. We've observed the electoral process and we're satisfied with the transparency and the broad participation of its citizenry, Mr Speaker. So there we have it. The CFMEU, known for its transparency and its adherence to the rule of law, praising the government of Venezuela and their elections for their transparency and adherence to the rule of law. You see, Mr Speaker, the member for McMahon, the member for Port Adelaide, now the member for Cowan are not interested.
The Treasurer will resume his seat. The member for Grayndler on a point of order.
Yes, Mr Speaker. As much as it's very interesting—
No, what's the point of order?
Relevance, clearly, Mr Speaker.
I thank the member for Grayndler.
Mr Speaker, the member for Cowan—
Treasurer has the call.
Lower energy prices for the people of Western Australia. We on this side of the House have put together a piece of legislation which will see Australian families and Australian businesses better off.